I'm Sabado, and this is the Everyday Retiree, where we help you live your best life on your terms. I recently had the opportunity to speak at a diabetes conference where I discussed the role gardening can play in the prevention of type 2 diabetes. The other speakers were physicians, so I asked my contact, why me? He told me, Sabado, I watched your channel, and I think you have a very down-to-earth and approachable style. And that got me thinking about a question that I got from a subscriber recently, and I think this question may resonate with many of you as well. So let's get into it. For a lot of people, retirement feels like this big, blurry goal that's out in the horizon. You want it, but you're just not quite sure what to do next or when to do it. Or as I like to say, what does it mean and how do you do it? And today's video was inspired by a great question from one of our community members, Melindar8720, who asked the question, what should I be doing 10 years, 5 years, and 1 year before retirement? That question hit home because I remember being in that exact same place, wanting to retire early, but not knowing how to bridge the gap between dreaming about it and doing it. So today, I'll break down the exact steps you can take, or that I took, to get to that place and that you can take depending on where you are in your timeline. At the 10-year mark, your focus should be on building a solid foundation, both financially and mentally. Here's where to start. Number one, you got to know your numbers. I used to track my real monthly spending, and I did that with intention for about 3 to 6 months, just so I knew where I was, because it wasn't about budgeting. It was about awareness and understanding where I spend money, how much I'm spending on Uber Eats, how much I'm spending on a bunch of other stuff. Number two, my wife and I both committed to maxing out our retirement accounts and starting to take advantage of those catch-up contributions, when you hit 50, and consistently making sure that we put money in, because again, what becomes critically important is the compound interest. And I have another video that I'll share with you that talks about how compound interest works. But essentially, you don't just get interest on the money that you put in, you get interest on the gain. So if this year you put in $100 and you get 10% returns, next year you have $110 in. So now you're getting 10% of 110% or $110, which is going to be more than the original 100. And then it just compounds on itself. And there's an exercise that you see on YouTube where somebody says, if you save $1 a day for 30 days, if you double your savings of what you put in the bank every day, starting with $1, then you have $1 million by X period of time. I don't necessarily, I've never done the math on that, but the idea is compound interest rewards consistency. And so we had to make sure that we were committed to it and we were consistent, so that way we could make sure that we gave that compound interest the best opportunity to work for us. Then we started defining our lifestyle vision and started to look at, what does retirement really look like for us? Did we want to travel? Did we want to volunteer? I talk about how I wanted to do some substitute teaching, which I quickly changed direction on. And then there's the whole gardening conversation, which, as many of you know, I'm a University of California certified master gardener, and that's part of my volunteering and actually part of my teaching because I'm out in the community. And my wife and I go on trips. We went to the Panama Canal. We went to Alaska. We just made a road trip up to the Oregon coast. And when we feel like we want to get away, we just go because we have the time to do it. And I suggest that you write it down, because the clearer your vision, the stronger your motivation. The next one is really critical. And this is one that I know a lot of people talk about. And I think people want to do it, but they don't know how to do it. But you have to figure out a way, as to eliminate debt. You target those high interest debts first, and then move towards paying off your house. Our house isn't paid off, but we've set our situation up in such a way that it's part of our monthly budget, and we're able to manage just fine with what we have, because the amount doesn't continue to change like it does on a 20% interest credit card. Plus there's a tax benefit. So there's a little push and pull there, but freedom from debt really gives you that flexibility in retirement. And I think I told a story in one of my previous videos where there was a time about 15, 17 years ago or so that I was in an incredible amount of debt. And I just said, as much as it didn't seem possible for me to overcome that and to get past it because it was just accruing every month, I just said to hell with it. And I just started throwing larger sums of money at it, doubling. I started with doubling the amount of the minimum payment, and then I'd get bonuses and I'd put that towards it. Next thing you know, one of my cards was gone, then another one and another one. And it took me some time to get out of that. But once I got out of that, it was an incredibly liberating feeling. And so now I don't finance anything. I don't finance cars. I don't finance vacations. I have financing on my house, but I don't finance anything. And we have a couple of credit cards that we use because in order to secure hotels or rentals or any of that, you have to have a credit card. But what we do is we use a credit card to get the points, and then we pay off the credit card in full at the end of the month. So that way we get the benefit of the points and the airline clubs and the airline miles and all of that, but we don't get the interest on the debt, and it helps us track our spending. Again, I think that's next level hack. If you're here and you're challenged with eliminating debt, don't go out and get an American Express. Don't go out and get another credit card. Pay those credit cards off, and then you can start taking a look at what do you do when you reach the next level. And then when I was 10 years out, I started to see how my daily choices were starting to shape my future. And that's when retirement stopped being a dream or a someday and started being a plan. It's interesting because 10 years ago, or 10 years before I retired, I probably wouldn't have been able to tell you that I would have been able to retire in 10 years because that, again, I retired at 51. So it's significantly earlier than when most people retire, because even most early retirees are at 55, 58, 60. So to retire at 51 was a big deal. But as we started putting those steps in motion, and not long after that, we got a financial person to help us, then things started to seem real. And we realized that we were at a point where we didn't have to deal with as much as we were dealing with at work just because we didn't have to. We had the money to not be able to do it. We could do the things that we wanted to do. And I've always wanted to do the stuff that I'm doing now. At the 5-year mark, you're close enough to see retirement, but far enough to make small adjustments. So we had a financial advisor by this time. And so here's some of the stuff that we did is we ran a mock retirement test. We said, let's live for 3 months on our projected retirement income. So what we're going to make, let's see how we can make it work and what it is we need to do. And we learned pretty quickly what works and what doesn't. And then we started thinking about what are we going to do for healthcare? Now, one of the beauties of our situation is that we have, we're part of the group plan, and we're able to stay in the group plan through retirement. So it makes things easier. But I would just recommend that you research the Affordable Care Act, COBRA, and other healthcare cooperatives. There's another channel named Joe Kuhn. I think it's Joe Kuhn Loves Retirement, JoeKuhn. And one of the things he talks about in healthcare is he's in Indiana, and he talks about the Indiana Farm Bureau and how a friend turned him on to that. So there's insurance in a lot of other places. And the other thing to look at is perhaps the AARP. I'm not sure what their plans are, but there's a lot of places that are looking at this because with everything going on around the Affordable Care Act and some of the challenges that's having in the eyes of our politicians, it's creating a lot of fear because it's without the subsidies, it pushes up the cost. And so a lot of people now that are retired, particularly early retirees, are worrying about it. I mean, our rates on a private plan just went up 30%. So it's something that you really need to take a look at, put in your budget, and think about it when you're about 5 years out. And then start to simplify your finances. Consolidate your accounts, automate your bill payments, and reduce the complexity. Right now, I only look at my accounts once a month because I want to make sure that everything that I've set up that's automatically paid from my bank, that's automatically paid to my credit card or from the credit card, that goes out. Any transfers that I have, those happen automatically just so I don't have to worry about it. So every month I look at the accounts and say, okay, the accounts are about where they need to be. Then I just keep it moving because once I developed a plan, it took me an exercise to trust the plan, and it's easier to trust a plan that's less complex than some of the other plans. And then the next thing I would suggest you do, and that we did, is build some flexibility in your plan. Assume that things will change, the market, expenses, and even your goals. And the best retirement plans are the ones that adapt. One of the things that's really important for me is I like to play golf. It's just one of those things. There's two things in my life that hold true. Number one is having my DJ equipment and DJing from time to time and playing music and all that stuff. And the other one is golfing. And so those are things that were non-negotiables. And so I built those into the plan. So, all the rest of the stuff, it may come, it may go, but I built the cost of golf into the budget. So that way I knew what the budget was. And it incorporates that. So I don't worry about, oh my goodness, now I'm going to go out. Now, I will tell you that those adjustments and that flexibility can go up or down. So like this YouTube channel, it's no secret that YouTube monetizes you after a certain amount of views. And just trust me, anybody that's been rocking with me for a while knows my game isn't to try to make money off of YouTube. That just really just pays for some of the softwares that I use and stuff like that. So I could bring you excellent content because it does take a little bit of equipment, but that's an upward flexibility. So now that $500-600 a year that I'm spending on subscriptions or whatever, I don't have to pay that now. So it offsets. So the flexibility, I know a lot of times we talk about flexibility and that flexibility is scary, but sometimes that flexibility is good. So don't freak yourself out about it. Just focus on developing the plan and making sure that it's flexible. So if something happens, then you have a little bit of wiggle room, or as my financial advisor calls them, you have levers. The 5-year window is when I really began living my retirement vision, testing what it felt like to work less, spend differently, and invest more intentionally. When you're 1 year away, the finish line is in sight. Now it's time to prepare for the emotional and logistical side of the transition. And I talk a lot about this in other videos, so I suggest you go back and take a look at some of those. But number one, you want to finalize your income streams. Confirm whatever pensions that you have. I have a neighbor of mine that's retired early, and he's having problems with his pension because it was a medical retirement. And somebody didn't do something they were supposed to do, and then you have all these bureaucratic hurdles he has to jump through. And so fortunately, he had money saved, but it's a challenge for him, and he's stressed out about it. Make sure that you have your Social Security and your investment withdrawal plans, especially those of you without a financial advisor. I'm fortunate enough to have somebody that I give a call to and I tell them, hey, look, I need this because we're running short. He's like, okay, I'll just make sure we withdraw from this account and you're good to go. Or if he sees there's a problem on the horizon, he'll call me and say, hey, Saab, there's a problem on the horizon. However, not everybody has that. A lot of people don't want to pay the 1% of their assets under management. And I get it. This isn't about trying to sell you anything because that's not my game. But the idea is that you always want to just make sure that you have that plan in place and just confirm those. And then plan your exit strategy when you're leaving the jail, the job, when you're leaving work. Communicate your timeline to work leadership when you're ready. I didn't tell my boss until about a month out because, again, it was so hard for me to be there and I was so excited to be leaving. But I wanted to make sure I gave others an opportunity to say goodbye if they wanted to. Because, again, like gifts at a wedding, it's not really for you. It's for the fact that other people want to give. And I want to give people, I didn't want to take that opportunity away from other people. Plus, I had a pretty large span of responsibility. So my efforts touched a lot of people. And I had just finished a project that gave an average increase of about 20% in salary across the entire organization. So there were a lot of people that felt grateful and thankful for that wanted to say goodbye as well, plus outside vendors and so on. But protect your boundaries. Not every farewell needs a long goodbye. There's some people that, they know that they made your life difficult. There's some people, there were haters. Like I knew I had haters. And I remember it was funny. There's this one person I was talking to. Then I got called into the room with somebody else and I said, I'll be right back. I never came back. Why? Because I'm never going to see that person again. And the fact is that was one person that was looking to undercut me the entire time. So I stepped away. So not every goodbye needs to be something long and drawn out. Some people it's just like, hey, deuces, I'm out. I'm 5,000. Those of you from back in the day, no, I'm outie. I'm 5,000. And then start to rehearse your new life. Start shaping your retirement routine, your exercise routine, your volunteering, your travel, your gardening, whatever it is that gives you purpose. I did this YouTube channel. It took me about a year to gain the confidence to do a YouTube channel because I didn't believe I had anything to talk about. And then I realized how few people that look like me actually retire and how few people that look like me are talking about the early retirement journey. And so I felt like this was another piece of my purpose because my gift is being able to speak to people. It's always been something that I've been really good at. But, that changed because, again, remember, I was thinking about being a substitute teacher. That was my thing. I was going to be a sub. And I chose to do something different because it was too much work going and dealing with the problems of other people's households on a daily basis. And it comes glaring. But that first year after leaving work is a blend of freedom and excitement and rediscovery. You start to understand things about yourself you never understood. It's about learning who you are without the title and how to fill your days with purpose. Because now you can no longer complain about your boss being a knucklehead or your colleague trying to cut you, undercut you, or any of that, because now you're your own person. So whether you're 10 years, 5 years, or 1 year away, remember, retirement isn't a finish line. It's a transition into living life on your own terms. And before I wrap up, I just want to give a special thank you to Melindar8720 for asking this question, inspiring this video. I appreciate you being part of the everyday retiree community and helping to shape this conversation. I think this is a really important conversation. It's a question that I've gotten a lot, but in different formats. So I really appreciate you just kind of coming at me straight with it. Again, the other thing I want to mention as we start to wrap up is I've been on a pretty steady clip of having conversations with people. So if there's somebody that just wants to have a conversation, I'm not going to call it coffee with Sab or anything like that. I'm gonna, you're chatting with the homie, so you want to have a chat with the homie, send me an email, put in the text, put in the subject line, put chat with the homie. And then we could sit down, we can have a conversation. We get a time, then you send me a Google link or a Google invite to my email address, and my Google email address is inside of the channel description, and we can have a conversation. I don't charge for them or any of that. And the other thing that came up in another video when I mentioned I was going to do the speaking is about getting paid for speaking and stuff like that. I haven't figured that out because at the end of the day, I'm not doing this for the money. I've already got my plan. I'm already set up, and I just am fortunate and feel blessed that we have so many people that are resonating with this message because it tells me that it was needed. But if there is ever an opportunity for money to inflow, then just know that the chances are that money is going to be donated to some cause. And my head hasn't gotten big enough to think that it's going to have that type of appeal because I don't think there's as many of us that are out there that are having a conversation because we've got so much other stuff going on that's making it difficult for any of us to really retire. But if it ever gets to that point, we'll have a conversation. And then if enough of you are interested in seeing the presentation that I did on the role gardening can play in preventing of type 2 diabetes, let me know, and I'll run that presentation for you on a channel in an off cycle. So I think the Wednesdays and Saturdays are a perfect cadence for us. They seem to be doing what we need to do. So I do a special session just to go through that presentation so you could see what it is that I'm talking about and how easy it is to start a garden and so on for those of us that don't feel like we have the space or the money or the time to do it. So in closing, I just want to say it's never my expectation that everyone retires early, but it is my expectation that you live your best life. And if this video helped you, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing, and share it. I would rather have you share it with 10 other people than subscribe because everybody is going to retire at some point. It's just, are they going to do it on their terms or somebody else's terms? And my goal is just to make sure that whatever life you want to live, here's some vehicles to be able to do that. And, and if somebody's thinking about the countdown, they could probably use the video. So, all right, I'm about at time. So have a good rest of your day, and I will talk to you soon.